Hey guys, welcome back to Six Quantum Bridge Podcast. This is your host, analyst, and researcher, Bernadette. You are listening to a 2025 Spotify Rising Star podcast, marathon podcast, and most shared podcast, and you're about to find out why. So, my last episode was about the feminist utopia that modern feminists want to bring about and what it would look like for any offspring that would come from their single cells without any recombination. I'm not going to get into too much over here. You have to listen to the episode. All right. So if you haven't done so already, hit that follow button and follow me on my other podcast, my sister podcast at the Psychic Splinter Podcast. Okay. Let's get started. I'm pulling up my notes here because I like to stay organized. And I really wanted to talk about this because we used to talk about this, us Generation Xers, and it was used to describe somebody that wanted to be unnecessarily masculine, okay? So, being that I've been talking about militant feminists, I have nothing against feminism. I have something against militant feminism, where you border on the lines of misandry. That's the type of feminism I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with the other feminism. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me, okay? The one that does bother me is the militant one, okay? So, let's talk about penis envy. The textbook definition of penis envy, according to Sigmund Freud's classical psychoanalytic theory, is the hypothesized desire of young girls and women to possess a male genital organ, stemming from the realization that they lack one. This realization was considered a pivotal moment in female psychosexual development, leading to feelings of being handicapped, quote unquote, or castrated, quote unquote, and was thought to be a source of female neuroses in adulthood. How does that link to modern feminism? Look at the dynamics of a militant feminist woman being married to a beta male or a feminist sympathizer, okay? The more the woman is in her masculine energy and that takes over more than her female energy, her feminine energy, there's a deficit that happens. And when that deficit happens, the man essentially becomes feminine. But because of the natural way of things, when the man is desiring to be a little more masculine, it's going to be in competition with the masculine energy of the female, and they're going to butt heads. So, what is the textbook definition of penis envy? In Freudian theory, the concept is part of the phallic stage of development, which is from the ages of 3 to 6. Where does it originate from? A girl notices the anatomical difference between sexes and concludes she has been castrated or lost her penis, often blaming her mother for this quote-unquote deficit. In development, this leads to a shift in affection from the mother to the father, the feminine version of the Oedipus complex, in an attempt to obtain a penis, either literally or symbolically. This is also happening right now with feminist women that don't want to let go of the baddie aesthetic. They don't want to go full on patchouli scented, sandals wearing, all your hair grow out in all of the precarious places. They still want to maintain their femininity and hypersexuality, but also be a militant feminist. So those people are at odds with the two selves. They're at odds with the feminine part of themselves and the masculine part of themselves. And there's an inner war happening with these feminists. This is something that they're not telling you, because nobody that is happy in what they are needs to make the content that they make. They don't need to bash men. Listen. The most at peace feminists that I know about are the tomboys, because they are not conflicted. They don't resonate with being very feminine, so they don't act it, they don't dress it, they don't talk it. They do a lot of things that guys are into, the gaming and the, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, they're not in an internal conflict with themselves. The feminine presentation battling the desire for a dick. Let's get into it. Because when they look in the mirror, what are they seeing? This is where I talk about Baphomet and how there's that confusion there. Let's look at what Baphomet is. It's a contradiction. A goat-headed, female-breasted, also having a penis, one female arm, one male arm, hooves, tail, wings, just every manner of things in the one thing. So when we see these militant feminists online, and personally, I just scroll by because I know that the P word is going to be mentioned, the patriarchy. Oh, please with that word. Not interested. Scroll, 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 scroll. I just keep scrolling. And what I learned is that when you comment, you tell the algorithm that you want to see more of that. So I just ignore and block, ignore and block, ignore and block, and press not interested. Train the algorithm to stop showing you that. All right. So this internal conflict that these women have is presented in the hypersexual man bashers. It's an oxymoron, and that's present with the spirit of Baphomet working through these women. So, according to Freud, normal feminine development required eventually accepting this quote-unquote inferiority and redirecting the wish for a penis into a wish for a baby and a husband, thus embracing traditional female gender roles, which, listen, we can talk about this all day. If my husband wants to help me with the dishes, great. Yes, we have our roles, but we need to help each other out too. Because honestly, and I was having this conversation with a family member, men are single for a while before they meet the love of their life and get married. How are you going to survive if you don't know how to do things that are traditionally woman's work, quote unquote? Okay? If you don't know how to wash your own drawers or cook your own food, you won't survive. So, in modern terms, men have to know how to do these things too. Now, how does this relate to modern feminism? Modern feminism largely rejects or heavily critiques the Freudian concept of penis envy, viewing it as a sexist, quote unquote, and biologically deterministic theory, quote unquote, with no scientific evidence. Its relation to modern feminism is primarily one of historical critique and reinterpretation. Listen. If you want to be a tomboy, go ahead and be a tomboy. But when you start thinking that you can, listen, traditionality is not an evil thing. There are things that men can do better than women, and it's in that very aggressive masculine. Masculinity has competitiveness in it. All right. So I want to understand something. And any of the feminists that listen to me, please explain something to me. We all learned in school how two same things repel each other. Opposites attract. Which points back to the previous episode that I had made on recombination and these militant feminist desire for a feminist utopia where men don't exist, and what that will mean for any of the babies that they make asexually, if that's even a thing, if they even survive without the masculine Y gamety coding of survival, because it comes from the masculine. The survival gene comes from the masculine. Don't blame me, blame science. Conversely, how are two masculine energies going to live in the same house? And I've talked about this before, about the relational dynamics, the spiritual mathematics. It doesn't add up because two positives will make a negative. So if you have a very, very masculine man and a very masculine, hyper masculine, even if they don't present as masculine in energy, aggressive female, how are they going to get along? Duality is about the dark and the light, the yin and the yang. Two yins start fighting as well, and two yangs will be tearing each other's eyes out. So, the critique of sexism. Some feminists argue that Freud's theory is androcentric or male-centered and misogynistic, as it positions the female body and female sexuality as inherently inferior or a failed version of the male. But what they don't tell you is that the starting of things comes from a seed, and it's even found in our food. Think of fruits and vegetables, how it starts with a seed and ends with a seed. After you've eaten all the flesh from the fruit or the vegetable, you're left with the seed. And you can replant the seed over and over and over again. Reproduction. The same thing applies to human sexuality. It starts with a seed. These feminists say it's social power, not anatomy. The most common feminist reinterpretation, first proposed by psychoanalyst Karen Horney, Karen, in the early 20th century, is that quote unquote penis envy is actually an envy of men's social status and power, not the biological organ itself. In a patriarchal society, the penis is a symbol of the power and privilege accorded to the male gender, and a woman's desire for the penis is the desire for that social equity. Think of all these modern feminists that are wannabe brujas, wannabe witches. Magic in and of itself is a masculine force because it takes. So how are you being a feminist by using a masculine energy, a masculine force to get what you want? You're being just as masculine. Let's talk about it. In the tarot, the wands represent magicians and magic and phallic energy. If you're a queen of wands, you're picking up what I'm putting down here? A feminine presenting woman that has a lot of masculine energy, very competitive, doesn't like competition, wants to be on top all the time. But they have rebranded this to call this whole movement you being a boss babe. But these boss babes will wind up alone. And we've seen it time and 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 time again. Now, there's a counter theory that there's something called womb envy, okay? Horney also proposed the concept of womb envy, arguing that men may envy women's ability to bear children and that male achievement could be seen as an overcompensation for this inability. Basically saying that they achieve all these things because they can't create life in their own womb. Well, they're helping to create that life, because if they're not part of the equation, then the sperm just gets there and dies, right? You need both parties in order to make this baby. So what they were saying is that men overachieve. But let me ask you something. How is the man overachieving through quote unquote womb envy, but yet you're the same fucking woman that wants him to make 6 figures a fucking year? How the hell is he going to make those 6 figures a year if he's not constantly putting his nose to the grindstone? You can't have it both ways. Pick a lane and stay there. Now, this womb envy, and this is going to make some people upset, but oh well. This womb envy we were seeing with this very temporary, thank goodness, thank God, stance where we were seeing a lot on social media, especially on TikTok. We were seeing these, listen, men that wanted to be women, that wanted to get wombs basically ripped out of other real women and implanted into them. How's it going to come out? And then they have to go through the bottom surgery and all of this stuff. You're doing an awful lot for something that you weren't meant to do. So there's that womb envy, but that also comes from Baphomet, because Baphomet can't create anything. There's the focus on social constructivism. Modern psychology and feminist theory focus on social learning and cultural factors in gender identity formation. rather than the rigid, biologically based psychosexual stages proposed by Freud. But listen, was Freud really wrong? I mean, you can't expect a feminist to agree with Freud. They're not going to do that. Just like you can't expect a witch to get anything in her life without witchcraft. These are the languages that they speak, okay? You had to meet people where they're at, all right? Used as a discrediting tool. How do they use this as a discrediting tool? Early feminists like Betty Friedan pointed out that the concept of penis envy was used to discredit women's ambitions for equality, labeling their desire for a life outside the home as a neurotic desire to be equal. Listen, there's a fine line when you want to be a career woman. You want to be a career woman, go right ahead and be a career woman. But the thing is, there are limitations to what you can do. Let's say you want to be a boxer. Are you going to get in the ring with a male boxer when he has more reach, more power, more muscle mass in his punch than you do? To prove a point that you got just as big balls as he does? And then I saw a video of this one time. And the woman got knocked the fuck out. You're dumb, lady. I mean, come on. You were never meant to be a man. I'll say it again. You were never meant to be a man. You were never meant to be a man. You were never meant to be a man. You are not a man. You are not a man. You're not a man. You're not a man. You are not a man. I don't know how many languages I have to learn to get this through to their heads. You are not a man. In sum, modern feminism treats the original Freudian definition as an outdated historical artifact, quote unquote, largely devoid of clinical or scientific merit, and recontextualizes any observed envy as a rational response to systemic gender equality. Let's stop it. Let's stop the bullshit. Let's stop. There's a big FOMO that happens with this. Fear of missing out. I've talked about this on my podcast many times before. And I feel like with these militant feminists, I'm not talking about all feminists, okay? I'm talking about the militant ones. The screaming wombats. They so want to be a man that they are willing to put themselves in harm's way in order to do that. And if a person wants to be a feminist, great, wonderful. But the problem that I have with it is when you start bashing traditional women. We're over here baking our cookies and fixing our homes, and we're minding our business, and you're coming into our comment sections with your hateful rhetoric. Go somewhere else. Go to one of your many feminist places. And what is it with these people? Why do you go to places where you know that you're going to get pushback? Why can't you just scream into your echo chamber? Because you are tired of hearing the same yes men and yes women agreeing with you? You want a little bit of a drama, you want a little bit of pushback, so you go to these traditional websites and social media accounts to pester people. All I want to do is watch her bake her cookies. All I want to do is watch her plant plant the flowers in the garden and take care of the little goats, and it's my little warm place on the internet. What the fuck are you here for? Don't you have a rally to go to? Don't you got some man bashing to do somewhere else? Don't you got a fucking sign to make? Like, what the fuck, man? Let me have my little space on the internet here where I can enjoy myself and watch the baking and the cooking and the decorating and everything and enjoying being a feminine woman. But here you come. Go away. With that, I'm going to kind of end it here because I'm getting a little agitated and I don't need to be agitated. So, that being said, follow me here. Follow me on my sister podcast at the Psychic Splinter Podcast. Take care of yourselves. Stay above it. Stay grounded. Stay discerning. And stay in your lane. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.